Peace. It's the Hood Mystic. This week in astrology, September 24th to September 29th, we're going to be talking about some oppositions and some competitive aspects in our astrology that we're all dealing with. I know a lot of us probably looking at the world like, what's really going on? But to all things, there's a light side and there's a dark side. So dealing with the astrology of it all, there's a light side. So excuse me, but yeah, man, it's just some interesting times that we're dealing with. This week in astrology is brought to you by www.hoodmystic.com. So I'm gonna just do a brief overview, a broad outlook of the upcoming transits and aspects with the planetary energy. And if you want a more detailed view on how it impacts you, I suggest that you link up with an astrologer like myself, or there's actually many astrologers, but it's more or less people who speak your language, who can convey specific messages towards you. But first and foremost, we're going to deal with Mars and Virgo opposing Neptune and Pisces. So like I said, this is more catered towards oppositions. There's a lot of oppositions coming up. And so if you look at the landscape in media, you see people with actual lines drawn, actual oppositions, whether it be the NFL versus the White House, the NBA versus the White House, LeBron versus Kyrie, Kevin Hart versus his wife. Just it's a lot of oppositional energy present. So even in your own personal life, I know there's some opposition as well. So we need to understand opposition. It's a real cool example. Well, not really cool. It's kind of messed up. But when really truly understanding oppositions, you got to look at it from an objective point of view to fully understand the opposition in astrology. So, Young Dolph and Yo Gotti, two rappers from Memphis. So, an objective point of view would be two rappers from Memphis, but you have Young Dolph from North Memphis, and then you have Yo Gotti from South Memphis, or vice versa. I don't particularly know. I think I'm right, but anyways, I'm not from Memphis, so everybody in Memphis to me is the same. But since they're in Memphis, then they can't have objectivity like someone from the outside looking in, so they feel like they are in competition with each other, and that's just because they lack perspective. If for once they were able to rise above their beef and look at it objectively, maybe they could squash it and figure out a ways around it, because it's not really necessary. So even in your relationships, you have to become objective when understanding opposition. So moving forward, just keep that in mind, because we're going to be talking about a few different oppositions, but I want you in your life where these oppositions come up for you to look at it objectively, because when you do look at it objectively, you are looking at the same thing, just in two different polarities. And so how do you handle that from there? At least you have that knowledge and that grasp that you are looking at the same thing. You're not actually looking at two different things, because if they were completely different, then they wouldn't be in opposition. It's like an orange and a pickup truck. they're different, but they're not opposition because they're completely different. But you wouldn't say an orange is in opposition to a pickup truck, but you would say a F-150 in a Titan is oppositionals in the pickup truck game, right? Why am I saying that? Because those are pickup trucks, and so since they're in the pickup game, then and it matters in that realm to a person who doesn't give a shit about pickup trucks. I just see you in your pickup truck. I really could give care if you're in a Ford F-150 or a Chevy Silverado. Only people who care about pickup trucks make it more important than what it is. And if you were to YouTube some of these guys talking about how Silverados are just so much better than F-150s, and whoever drives F-150s are pussies, and just all this crazy stuff. And it's like, I'm just not in that world. So understand your opposition. You being extremely subjective right now, and you need to take a step back. But Mars in Virgo is sitting back wondering, what is this life that I'm living? Where am I going? What am I doing? Am I doing productive things with my time and with my energy? If so, Mars in Virgo is like, taking a 5-hour energy at work. It's like really being extremely productive is energy within the realms of work and organization and planning. But now it opposes Neptune and Pisces. So what is that saying? That is saying in life, when you want to climb up, you will deal with resistance. But when you fall, you will be felt with momentum. So where in life do you feel the resistance, and where do you feel the momentum? So the momentum would be like drug use or dangerous things like stealing, gambling, like all of that excitement shit that you get momentum. That's equivalent to falling off a 24-story building, because that momentum is bringing you down faster than you can help. When you're climbing, when you're dealing with Mars and Virgo and actual work, actual business, it's not as easy. It's not so momentous. It's more of a resistance, it's more of a strain. But with resistance you get stronger, and with stronger you get bigger and you get more muscles. So how are you dealing with those detours and roadblocks that you're facing in your life? And this is going to come up again later in the build, but really understanding the detours and the roadblocks that we face. So once again, this transit is not about what happens to you, but it's clearly about how you respond to it, and are you able to do something about it, or are you just submitting to the drugs and the drinking and the lifestyle that increases with momentum like a free fall, falling off a 20-story building? Or are you down for the climb? Are you down for really dealing with the resistance, really putting forth effort? And effort by default brings about resistance. That's the whole point of effort. Effort isn't something that comes naturally easy. So moving forward, we also have another cluster. We have a cluster of planets in Virgo, and they oppose in these Chiron in Pisces and Neptune in Pisces, because Virgo and Pisces are opposite, meaning that they're one and the same. But we're gonna get into that. So, but back to Mercury and Virgo. Mercury is exalted in Virgo. Mercury is ruled by Virgo. Mercury is the mind, the intellect, communication. Virgo is the refinement of Mercury, which is the mind. So the refined mind, the sharp mind, oppose Chiron and Pisces. So you could be super smart, right, and super intelligent, but have a fucked up agenda. Whether it be, NRA, let's just do that for an example. I bet you it's some genius level marketers and minds, but all of these corrupt systems and things of that nature, they have intelligence behind them. They don't have dummies to do evil, but at the same time, evil and negativity is generally preceded by positivity and healing. Chiron is a dualistic symbol which represents the wound and the healing of the wound. Those things are one and the same. You need to have the wound to provoke healing. The healing is there just in case one is to get wounded. So you have access to healing, but you are susceptible to wounds. This is life. So within life, there is no 100% joy. There is no 100% healing because you can't heal something that doesn't need to be healed. It has to be at some form of a deficit. And so Mercury in Virgo is the sharp analytical mind, but which direction of the spectrum is the mind headed? Is it focused on the wound or is it focused on the healing? So understanding oppositions and being objective. So we must look at this thing as one and the same. So all that I just said, whether the mind is focused on the wound or the mind is focused on the healing, is right and exact because it's all needed at the end of the day. We all need negativity to, that's what keeps nurses employed, is, us make, hurting ourselves and causing pain and trauma and things of that nature. This is all a part of life. This is all a part of the cycle of life. This is all a part of our incarnation on earth. We've signed up for a lot of these things, so that's the objective point of view. To not really be victimized or to feel as though that you could reach a blissful state of 100% healed and transformed and never to feel, like you floating in a fluorescent bubble where nothing affects you and nothing jars you or shakes you up. That's not logical. But you could really manifest anything that you want, but just basically from a overview objective perspective, the good and the bad, they rolling together. They a package deal. That's the objective view to Mercury in Virgo opposing Chiron in Pisces. Moving along, we have Jupiter and Libra opposing Uranus and Aries, September 28th. So Uranus is all about that drama and that action, and so we have so many different aspects to it throughout this period of time, and you just see so much action as different planets ping off of Uranus and Aries, because Uranus and Aries is like, do this and I don't care what nobody else say, or it's really coming into your own. And when you come into your own, you generally, almost certainly do not need a cosigner to step out on your own and to be your own person. And so, where are you drawing the line at when it comes to empathy versus taking control of your life and your mind and thinking for yourself and absorbing everybody else's thoughts versus you creating thoughts of your own and creating an action plan for yourself, as opposed from doing everything that everybody else is doing? Where is that line at for you? Where is your why do you make the decisions that you make? Are you making decisions that make you happy, or are you just doing shit because you saw your mama doing it or you saw your dad doing it? So, Uranus in Aries has no sensibilities. Jupiter in Libra is constantly weighing it out, trying to figure it out, and it wants to incorporate others and have this, kumbaya moment. And Uranus in Aries is like, F all that. I think the objective to this opposition is that taking care of yourself is taking care of everybody. That's a fact. You can't take care of everybody if you haven't fully satisfied what it is within you that you need to do. You have to answer that call. And if within you is compelled to help another being, another soul, then so be it. But within this realm, within this time, self-preservation is the number one law, and you have to have a secure foundation for yourself and your family. You don't want your family to depend on a weak ass person. You want to be about it and always ready type of person if that's who you trying to represent for your family. Uranus is all about change too. So when we have a particular aspect opposing, squaring, trining, sextiling it, even in conjunct, it brings about change. It brings about sudden change. So from hurricanes to floods to presidents sending tweets to, even in your personal life and the things that you've been doing and the things that you've been seeing and the places that you've been going, it's all about changing. 2017 was like for the change, and we had a lot of aspects to Uranus, so we gotta give a lot of credit to Uranus. And Jupiter is expanding. It's like a hug that gets wider and wider as it goes about those degrees, so wide, and then it just explodes. And then we enter Scorpio October 10th. But for now, it is forever expanding. And Uranus is like for the change. And so understand that when things change, your ego doesn't like that. So our go-to move is to look for somebody to blame or figure out why this is happening. So how are you to adapt and to change in this year or in the past 2 years, ever since Uranus has moved into Aries? You know what I'm saying? April 2016. How have you adjusted since then with the rap? Like, the world has changed since then so fast and so much that sometimes I often question the world that I'm living in because it's just so weird now. And I don't remember the world being so weird growing up, but now I'm at a place where I'm looking at the world and I'm just like, what is the big change? Things are not the same, and you're crazy to tell me that things are the same over the past year or two. Things are completely different because Uranus brings that. It brings the flavor. And in our own personal lives, we have our own personal stories that we have to begin to step into and begin to walk with and begin to work with. And not be so caught up in what everybody else is doing. So Jupiter in Libra is expanding so much to say, wait a second. I need to expand within my damn self. And so Jupiter and Scorpio is bringing in that energy October 10th. Be ready for it because we change and we progress even further and at a deeper, more transformative level. And I'm excited because Scorpio is all for transformations. And I'm trying to expand and expand and transform. I'm all for that. So moving forward, Pluto goes direct later on that day, September 28th. So let's talk about Pluto for a second. Pluto is in Capricorn. Pluto has been retrograde since April 20th. April 20th, on that day, it's funny that the Patriots, now they talk about how the Patriots went to the White House to celebrate the Super Bowl, but at the time it was reported that, dozens of Patriots didn't go to the White House. And then you have around the same time as Pluto goes direct, what is the news story about? How the Golden State Warriors don't go to the White House. So to me, it's all symbolism, as in we are living in anarchistic times and we don't even know it. But by the grace of the human spirit, you have to really understand what they are trying to really say to us. We are living in a world at the mercy of our neighbor, and we have to generally be thankful because nothing is protecting us from anything at this point. And you could think that you're protecting yourself with your arsenal of guns and things of that nature, but that's not even the reality, that you could walk around with heavy artillery like that. So with that saying, you could be at the grocery store, you could be anywhere, and I'm not speaking about doom and gloom. I'm speaking about how amazing it is that none of the crazy shit for the most part even happens, because we are not protected by a government, because the government has abandoned us, because as people we're supposed to be the government, but we have dropped the ball on that, and we depend on people outside of ourselves to govern us, to provide and to create and sustain a world that has refused to. I don't know how many times they're going to put out a movie. They have a movie out called Made in America about a government agent, CIA agent. I mean, this is not old news. I mean, this is not new news. This is old news. But really think about how your government will sell you drugs and kill millions of our mothers and fathers. Our mothers and fathers did not stand a chance because crack cocaine disabled my mom and all my friends' moms and moms across the country. And we are just now recovering, but we don't even know. We think that our government is not, like, who's creating the lean? Who's creating the promethazine? Niggas ain't creating that shit. Niggas ain't got no labs. So this is what we dealing with. And when I talk about the government, I'm talking about Pluto, plutocracy. I'm talking about dictatorship, because you don't even know that you living in a dictatorship. You think that Donald Trump is the president. I mean, that's crazy that we can sit and have these conversations about something when we know and people know that who run the bank is not the government. The Federal Reserves run the government, because the Federal Reserve is not the government, but the government has to ask the Federal Reserve for all of its finances. When the government needs money, it has to go to the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve is not a government institution. Thus, Pluto is you not being self-governed. Thus, you dropping the ball. And what is a government? A government is a order to your life. A secretary, a vice president, a president, a financial officer, a sheriff, somebody who take care of the army, the military is something that we are not taking control of in our personal lives, and we are given to people who have shown to be incompetent for since we've been in the form of government since 1776, when we had slavery, then we had Jim Crow, then we had civil rights, then we had segregation. All of these is patterns and signs to me that the government don't give a shit about me. Thus, I'm not even going to feed into it. No way possible. How could I? When I know for a fact that the same government never gave a shit about me, never spoke to me. So, why am I talking about this? I'm saying that Pluto is going direct, and any issue that you have that you think that the government is responsible for, you ain't woke up, and you need to wake the fuck up. Cause if you depending on a nigga like Donald Trump for any good or any bad, I mean, it's like a clown, or I don't know. What, like, we obviously don't have a government any longer, so it is our responsibility to understand how to govern ourselves. That's so important. How are you in this world? Do you understand the laws of this world? Because ignorance of the law is no excuse. You don't know if you're breaking a law or not because you don't know law. And I'm not saying that law will save you. I'm just saying ignorance of the law is no excuse. That's just if you break a law, you can't say, "Well, I didn't know any better." You can't say that. You can't say that. So I'm saying it's best to know this type of shit and stop thinking that life is about watching TV and chilling and going out on Friday and finding you a boo thing and fucking every other weekend, or it's all about your pleasures in life, because that's Pluto in the dark side. Pluto in the light side, the plutocracy, the government, is you taking and bossing up your life. That's Pluto. That's you. That don't have to be like you want to be. You want to vest power into Donald Trump. You trust him about anything. Did you know people been writing about Donald Trump like novels, books since 1980s? It's enough information on Donald Trump that you don't have to be in the dark about this nigga. You can know everything there is to know about him. It's not somebody that's just coming out of left field, like somebody that's mysterious like Barack Obama or nothing like that. But y'all gave him a pass because the color of his skin. and, and we keep giving it to people. We keep giving our government to people because they are charismatic and they turn you on sexually or turn you off sexually. We need to really examine the concept of a fact, because once you see a caterpillar, that caterpillar, and you calling it a caterpillar, that's a fact. But it's also a fact that that caterpillar is a butterfly and it's not a caterpillar anymore at a particular point in time. So you need to be careful what you call facts, because over time those facts change and your silly ass is going to be still talking about some shit that you heard in 1986 that was relevant in 1986, and it was a fact in 1986, but in 2017 the world has changed. And so Pluto is in Capricorn till 2024. It hit in 2008. when Barack Obama was president, when he got inaugurated January 27th. And I'm telling you that the world is not, it hasn't, we have transformed, and it is changing into something that is completely different. So you need to focus on that change. What was his slogan when he was running for president? Change. So what has changed to a nigga like you? Is change 1996? What has changed to you? That is crazy. Cause a lot of y'all, 90% of y'all is holding on to some old shit, regurgitated past life shit that already done happened, and you still salty about it. But what has changed to you? That's what Pluto is representing. And so any issues that you continuously going over and you feel yourself going and feeling some type of way, I know you've been seeing these movies. They come out, it's been about 3 or 4 movies that done dropped with this theme. Marlon Wayans had a movie, Naked. Before I Fall was another one. Um Shit. Source Code was another one where they kept reliving the same scene over and over and over and over and over. It was another movie, an old school movie that I just watched on a humbug that had that same theme, and I can't even remember. But for a lack of better words, man, you gonna keep living the same life over and over again on a loop until you make changes, until you do something different, because life gonna be life. You can't control that. The only thing you can control is how you respond to that and how you understand and process this matrix, this illusion, this transformation that Barack Obama told you in 2008 it was about change, but how many of us really did that? That's real key, because you can see the pattern in it. So now that it's going direct, we right back into that same cycle. White House and people mad at the president, but that's like, being mad at a downtown sleazy hooker give you a STD because you had sex with her raw. At a certain point, you gotta be responsible for feeding into the bullshit. Like, at a certain point, you gotta kind of be like, man, this dude's an idiot. I'm gonna fall back. So, moving forward, Mercury in Virgo in conjunct Uranus in Aries. So back to Uranus again, in those sudden changes in the in conjunct or quincunx. Those words are interchangeable. It represents integration. So Mercury in Virgo is the sharp analytical mind, has to now integrate the changes that we talked about that are going to happen over the next couple of days in between the 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th. And how do we respond? How do we integrate our perfect mind with these changes? We have to remember that we have to remain inspired. And when I say inspired, I'm saying inspire. Spire is another word for spirit. In spirit within. We have to move. Our mental has to be aligned on an angelic divine frequency. We have to think God thoughts. You feel me? Think God thoughts. Not what would Jesus do, not even what God do. I want you to really have a divine personality. Develop a divine personality. What would your divine self do in specific particular situations? And that's Mercury and Virgo in conjunct. How do we integrate the spirit mind into our changing universe? Because it's going to be a lot of us that wish it wouldn't change and wish shit would just stay the same, and that is depression for a lot of people. Can you deal with these changes, or do you want things to stay the same? Finally, man, our last opposition, Venus and Virgo opposing Neptune and Pisces. So Venus and Virgo, I give you an image, a visual to Venus and Virgo. Two lovers, they get together, they decide we gonna move in together. I like you, you like me, I could spend time with you, da 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 da. Let's move in together. And so the moment that they decide to move in together, they get the place. Venus and Virgo is like, okay, the couch go here, his stuff there, her stuff there. It's the planning and the organization, and it is the combination of, like, I love you so much that I'm willing to organize and plan and structure my life around our love, right? Neptune and Pisces is real subtle, but it's real petty, and it's like, why? 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 And you better have some answers for Neptune and Pisces, because it'll drive your ass crazy. So as the sun is in Virgo, and as it was in Virgo, because it opposes Pisces, that means that our perfection is constantly, what makes it perfection is the why. It is a progression of levels to get it to a point of refinement and perfection. But it's critical sometimes to a fault. Sometimes you just gotta let shit be, you know? But when shit is in Virgo, it's kind of like, it's either not quite, or like just a pretentious, like, kind of like an asshole, kind of like, if you know any Virgos, like hard to please type of individuals. It's just because that Pisces opposition is constantly bearing down on us, like, why, or it could be better, or let's change this, let's shift this, or let's move this around. So wrapping this thing up, man, you have to have a reason why you're doing the shit that you're doing. That's the objective view to this opposition. Why are you doing what you're doing? Are you just mindlessly doing some shit in 2017? Really? And that's why it's hard to talk to people, because it's like, well, why are you doing that? Still, it's like the Aquarian age. Like, shit has really shifted. Like, when we was kids and we used to talk about the future, that shit is here now. Whether niggas know it or not. So, as a community, as a people, are we going to move into that? And the future is very personal, whether you like it or not. It ain't Big Mama on Sunday meeting for Sunday dinner no more. It's send an event on Facebook and interested, yeah, no, maybe. That's that's where we at. And you could want to get back to Big Mama house and soul food, but that shit, you want to be eating hog maws, that shit killed millions of people too. Heart disease killed more people than drive-by shootings, believe it or not. Gang violence, heart disease killed more people than gang violence. Yet and still, people still eating hog maws and chitlins and shit. Still wishing to be slaves, sad to say. But figure out what you're doing and why you're doing it before you get too deep, because Neptune and Pisces is a deep ocean. That's yin and yang. That is submersion. That is, I won't see you no more. And so some Virgos that they can get lost. It's like, damn, where you been at? That's the Pisces opposition. And from an objective point of view, you have to understand that sometimes you gotta let shit just be and stop trying to be so deep, because you get so deep where you can't get back up. So, with that being said, man, I talked long enough, I feel. This was brought to you by hoodmystic.com, Hood Mystic Spiritual Advisory. You can check us out at www.facebook.com/hoodmystic, Gmail, hoodmystic@gmail.com. That's HOODMYSTIC at gmail.com. You can check me out on Twitter, at Hood Mystic. But yeah, any questions you want to talk about, readings and things of that nature, I'm real. You can talk to me. I'm real obtainable. I'm easy to talk to. So just reach out to me, hit me up. But that'll be it. This is the Hood Mystic, and I'm signing out. Peace.